Hey Kaylee, hopefully this video will get you caught up to where we're at in class. Hopefully you watched the two oversimplified videos. I know they're a little bit lengthy, but it's a really complicated topic. And the goal was to help you understand why America turned its back on our number one ally, which was the French. Remember, the French helped us win the American Revolution to defeat the British. And the French decided to overthrow their own king and look to us for help, and we turned our back on them. And the reasons why are in that video. But when the French decided to overthrow their overbearing, ridiculous king, they did look to the United States. Come on, why are you not working here? There you go. They did look to the United States for help. They began in 1789, which is right in the middle of us ratifying our Constitution. Okay, and their revolution is going to go on through the process of our ratifying the Constitution and into the Washington presidency. The United States, originally, the citizens of the United States supported it. We sent money. We sent resolutions to Congress saying we should be supporting this. But over time, their revolution got really ugly. Watch the two videos to understand that. And it became extremely violent. And they started using this guy, the guillotine, to chop off lots and lots of people's heads. And so we kind of stepped back from it. It became known as the Reign of Terror. And the French Revolution is an example of democracy going wrong. The revolution was democracy. The people wanted that. The people elected those leaders that used that guillotine to chop people's heads off. So they were giving democracy a bad name, and us linking up with them would have shown the world that democracy would defend democracy no matter how bad it was. And that's not what we were about. We were not just about being a democracy. We were about being a democracy because it was good for the people, and clearly the French version of democracy was not good for its people. As an example, in just 3 months in the middle of 1793, they killed 17,000 people. That's over 1,500 people a day with the guillotine. Imagine how the systems that have to be set up to chop off that many heads in one given day. The second reason we remain neutral is that France was about to go war with Great Britain. And even though we separated from Great Britain in the Revolutionary War, and they would be an obvious candidate for enemy of ours, we were actually trade partners with Great Britain. Since even when we were colonies, most of our goods came from Great Britain. Most of our goods went to Great Britain. So losing them as a trade partner would have been catastrophic for the United States. So if we supported this revolution, we would have lost our trade partner in Great Britain when they went to war with France. So both nations, when we remain neutral, decided they're going to start pulling over American ships on the high seas. It's not exactly like a cop pulling over a car, but it's not much different. They're much bigger ships than ours. They were merchant ships for Americans that were just carrying goods. They weren't Navy ships. And they would catch up to them and take everything on the ship and seize it as contraband, which is illegal goods, and they'd keep it themselves. In addition to taking cargo, the French didn't do this, but the British did. In addition to taking cargo, the British also started using a policy called impressment. And impressment is when you take American sailors on merchant vessels and force them to serve in the British Navy. You won't see this term anywhere ever again because it's the only time in world history we see this. This was obviously a betrayal of American sovereignty. It's not treating us like a country. It's treating us like we're still colonists. It was a way overboard, but we couldn't do anything about it, and England knew it. So in a time of war, they started doing bad things. Hamilton tells Washington, look, we can't go to war with England. First off, they'll crush us. But secondly, we're their trade partner. Not only we're their trade partner, but they're purchasing 75% of our goods, which means our businesses need England. As importantly, almost all the money we're making back then is off tariffs. A tariff is a tax on imported goods. 90% of the imports were coming from England, which means if we go to war with England and they shut off trade, we lose all our money. We have no money to build an army or a navy to fight England. So going to war with England's a terrible idea. We have to put up with the impressment. We have to find a way around this. So Washington sends over an envoy. It's not an ambassador. An ambassador is like an official job, but it's just a guy that he chooses to go talk to England. His name is John Jay. He's over here. He's our first Supreme Court Chief Justice. These are the original Supreme Court robes. They're obviously more subtle now. They're all black. But John Jay was one of the guys that wrote the Federalist Papers. He's one of our founding fathers. He goes over to England to negotiate a treaty with England to get them to stop stealing our sailors and stop stealing our goods. Well, he goes over there, he negotiates with England and creates what's known as the Jay Treaty, named after him. And what he gets from England, and as part of the treaty, is that England's going to, what we give to England. What we give to England is we're going to pay back our debt. Now, England doesn't know we'd already agreed to do that. That was part of Hamilton's plan, is we're going to get the country out of debt. But, so he gives away something that was going to happen anyway. Not a bad move. He gets back from England that they're going to pay back the companies that they took the cargo from. So those companies are going to be made whole. They're going to give them a bunch of money. That's a pretty good thing. And England also agrees to leave those forts in the Northwest Territory that they're using to arm the Native Americans. They should have left them 10 years ago at the end of the Revolutionary War, but they're still there. So they give up not much, and we give up not much. It's not much of a treaty. So what happens with treaties is the executive branch creates the treaty. Executive branch, George Washington sent John Jay to create the treaty. And then Congress gets to approve the treaty. Well, Congress almost didn't approve the treaty because we didn't get anything we wanted. What we wanted them is to stop taking the stuff, stop taking the sailors. Well, Great Britain refuses to recognize our right to trade with France, which means they're going to keep stealing our cargo that we're sending to France. And they refuse to recognize our rights as sailors, and they're going to continue to oppress our sailors. So did we get something? Kind of. Did we get what we wanted? No. So the Senate has to vote on whether they're going to accept the treaty or not, and they almost don't accept it. And then they don't accept it because we got something. So why turn it down? But it does not fix the problem. This problem is going to get kicked down the road to the next president, John Adams. So this is right near the end of Washington's presidency, and it does not solve the problem. So as France and England march towards war, nothing gets solved. So speaking of Washington going away, it's the end of his second term. We watched in class The Presidents, and we learned about George Washington. He had 1,000 reasons to stay president. There was a lot of things he still wanted to get done, but he felt the bigger lesson was that presidents are not kings, and that the country has to learn to survive without them. So in 1796, after 2 terms as president, he quits. And that sounds harsh, but he stops being president. He resigns. Does not run again. Goes off, and he's not going to live much longer. I think he's going to die like 4 years later in Mount Vernon. So he stops being anything for America. He just goes off. When he leaves, he writes a very famous farewell address. Actually, Hamilton writes it, but he tells Hamilton what to put in there. And it's a brilliant plan on what America should do when he's gone. As I leave the presidency, here's the playbook. Here's how to remain a stable, growing country that's no threat to the rest of the world. Here's how we manage to survive in a world surrounded by world powers. And it includes a couple main points. The first one, if you remember, he hates political parties. He says the worst thing that could happen in this country is if we start dividing ourselves politically. Well, he's going to lose that one. The Federalists and the Democratic Republicans are already forming to win the election that was created when he didn't run again. Secondly, and this one works, he says stay out of European affairs. Europe is full of world powers fighting each other that are willing to do anything to win. With no navy, with a small army, with a low population, and being largely broke. I mean, we're getting on our feet, but we don't have a lot of money. It would be really dumb to get involved in Europe. Washington says, look, we got a whole continent here to work with. Stay out of the problems of the rest of the world. Worry about yourself. And for about 150 years, we do that. In World War I and World War II, we start getting involved in world politics because we don't have a lot of choice. And you'll learn about that in 9th grade. After 1918, we remain still involved in world politics, and now we're probably the most involved in world politics of any country in the world. But up until 1918, this works. We stay out of world affairs. So what did Washington get accomplished? First and foremost, he created the government. The guy was given a constitution that says you're allowed to do these few things, go do it. And there was no plan how to get those things done. He sets up the cabinet departments. He sets up a relationship with Congress. He creates ambassadorships. He does all this stuff to get our country on our feet. He creates an economy through Hamilton. So our country has grown, and obviously our government is huge now. There's millions of employees, if you count the military and stuff, in the federal government. but it's all the same skeleton. Everything that Washington created is still there. We just built on it. So he created America. The way our government works, the way our country functions from day to day is George Washington's doing. He also got the economy turned around. By the end of his presidency, we've paid back France for the money that we owe them in the Revolutionary War, from the Revolutionary War. It takes us a while, but we get paid back. We're bringing in more money than we're spending. We got money to spend on things like a military. So we're on stable economic feet. He managed to keep us out of war. And that obviously was very difficult with England on our border, Native Americans attacking settlers, England refusing to give up forts, the British Navy impressing our soldiers, both Great Britain and France attacking our ships and taking our stuff. He managed to not go to war with these countries, without a doubt, unless a miracle happened. If we had gone to war with Great Britain or France in our early days, they would have destroyed us. We beat England only because they were fighting with France. If either one of them was able to focus solely on America, they would have crushed us. And Washington knew that. He was a good general, and he kept us out of war. And last but not least, the British did leave the territory. And when they left the Northwest Territory, that means we were now sovereign, which means we were in control of our own land. All the way from the Atlantic to the Mississippi River, we owned the land. Nobody else was on it, and we were settling, well, Native Americans, but, we don't count them. But no European powers were on our land anymore, and we now controlled that land, and we were able to settle it. So all that happens in the 8 years of George Washington's presidencies. It's pretty impressive. Okay, now let's talk about John Adams. Our section focus is how France and England are going to explode, and they're going to just rip our country apart as well. This is our focus question. The Federalists are going to be pro-war and pro-England. The Republicans are going to be anti-war, but if we're going to go to war, let's support France. So, starts out with John Adams, little 5'3", 5'4" John Adams. He inherits a lot of problems from the Washington presidency that aren't caused by Washington, but certainly weren't dealt with by Washington. France is angry with us that we didn't join them. Now, if you watch The Oversimplified, you saw why. But they were angry that we didn't join them. It felt like a total betrayal of everything in the Revolution. And then on top of that, when we went over and signed a treaty with England, the Jay Treaty, it looked like we're siding with England. We're a country that said, we're neutral. We're staying out of this war. We are not going to get involved in this war. And then we immediately go sign a treaty with England. When you're staying neutral, you don't sign treaties with one of the countries. Now, we had to sign the treaty, and really the treaty was useless. It was a useless, meaningless gesture by both sides. We got a little bit out of it. So it was hard to explain that to France. You don't go to one of your best friends and say, look, I know it seems like I'm siding with your enemy, but really it was a useless treaty. No, it was a treaty. We signed a treaty with an enemy. So we look like we are siding with Great Britain. So we have to repair this relationship. We obviously can't threaten France. We can't get them to stop attacking our ships. They're going to actually double down on that after we sign a treaty with Great Britain. The best thing we can do as a small country is we can go talk to them. And so we send over 3 guys called envoys. They're special diplomatic envoys. And they go to France and they ask to meet with the French leaders. And they are insulted heavily. They are told that they have to pay a $250,000 bribe just to talk to the French government. That would be $5 million in today's money. First off, as a country, we didn't have that money. And we're certainly, as a brand new democracy, not going to take the money that we need for a military and to take care of our people to bribe French officials. On top of that, is a poke in the eye, because we're not helping them in their own revolution in the war against France. They expected us to lend them millions of dollars to fight England. Well, we didn't have millions of dollars either. But above and beyond that, in today's world, this would just be a hilarious joke that you were even trying this. But back then, we were a brand new country, and this is treating us like a colony. This is treating us like an inferior country. And we're going to have to stop there for now, and that actually gets you caught up to where most of our classes are today. So you are all set. Please email me with any questions that you have. Thanks.